think that's why I consider myself normal, and why probably, I guess, in this context, you guys are normal. When I was, my first experience was in New York City. I went straight out of, after I graduated from college, I was like, I need to move to New York City. This is where I need to go. And when I went there, the crowd that I found were this like group of misfits on the Lower East Side, and everyone wore costumes and had fake names, and it was the most supportive, wonderful crowd of artists I've ever met in my whole life, which is why it led me into improv, because it was like, oh, there's an art form that's built off of this kindness. Okay, let's go to that. But it was like, my mentor for my 20s was a girl whose name is Reverend Jen Miller, who wears elf ears.
Sure.
And had a troll museum. You know the little trolls with the hair and the jewel, and her whole house had so many trolls, and the walls were painted with like decorative stuff, to the point where the company that makes the trolls literally came to New York to visit her apartment and take photos of it so they could put it up in their warehouse and say, keep working hard, everyone.
We're doing it.
Yeah, like...
It's worth it.
And her house was referred to as the Troll Museum. Like, it was her home where she lived. I went over there and, hung out with her. Yeah. But it was the Troll Museum was her home. And, since then, the Lower East Side has changed a bit, and the Troll Museum has had to move. But it's like... that crowd.
Who spoke for the troll museums? Yeah. Once the troll museums go, I love weirdo museums, and there needs to be more of them. You know what my dream? Here's my dream. I want to build, and I actually spoke to an architect recently. My dream house has always been to go out to Bastrop and build a giant boot. This is going to be real. And rent out the toe and the heel for weddings and events, and then live there up in the spiral staircase of the whatever sleeve that is. And then when I die, I don't know what they're called. I don't wear boots. But when I die, I want to give it to the state of Texas, because we need like roadside attractions. We need more whimsy and things to look at that make us happy for 2 seconds, because shit's dire. And so, I'm a fan. You can activate that little whimsy button. I will always be appreciative of Poopy Lickles. You know what I mean? Like, commit, son. That's like, commit.
I hope you make that boot house. I believe that.
It has been honestly a dream for about 20 years, and in the past 6 months is like, you know what? I can actually do this thing. So I'm looking at land, and I spoke to an architect, actually Ryan's wife, and I spoke to her, and why not? I've indulged enough whims in this life. I think I got a couple more in me. That's my last one, though. That's my, I'm gonna die, old man crazy, lives in a boot in Bastrop. It's great. Boot dreams, man. Gotta have boot dreams.
Yeah. Who was it? It was a nursery rhyme, right? With the lady who lived in the
shoe. She was a woman.
Yeah. The lady who lived.
She was a lady. Right. I just want to shatter the gender stereotypes of living in shoes.
This is a Texas story.
This ain't no woman's work, being an old crazy man. Yeah, she lived in a shoe, and she had a lot of children. I guess she had a lot of, she had a lot of sexual partners. They didn't go into how many children she had, or did the father die of some sort of cholera-like fairy tale disease.
That's true.
Fairy tales are awful. No, where's the dad?
How did that happen?
Bad.
She had so many children she didn't know what to do. By the way, how'd that story end? Did she kill them? I forgot how the story ended.
I don't.
Most children's tales were a terrible
ending. There wasn't a woman. She lived in a shoe, had so many children, she didn't know what to do, and then everyone died from malnutrition.
I mean, shoes aren't really structural.
They ate nothing but leather.
How come the Germans were so messed up? Their stories, they're crazy, crazy fairy tales.
They really are.
Oh, they're really dark.
Wildest, most insane.
Well, do you remember? We're all '80s children.
Yep.
Okay, so remember the movies like when I was a kid? Children's movies were really scary, like The Secret of Nim and The Last Unicorn.
Oh yeah.
They dealt with mortality and.
I have a hard time watching them now.
Yeah.
I remember Right Ann and Andy. There was a candy scene. The guy the land was made of this guy who was a candy blob, and that I had nightmares for weeks. They were on him, and he was just like, "Oh, you'll enjoy candy, won't you?" And just folding in on them. All those things really messed me up as a kid.
Yeah.
Nim had a giant tractor or something.
Oh yeah.
Right.
The shmoo. We had nightmares. We were just basically fed nightmares by old hippies. Hippies who did a lot of acid in the 60s made our children's entertainment. And then
I lived in Germany, and they had some like weird tales, like to get kids from sucking their thumbs. They had a story about a man who would come and snip your thumb off.
Sure,
like
what? It's terrifying.
Like just a guy in a dark robe that would come out and be like, "No, you're too old. Snip, no more thumbs. Can't suck them."
Yeah, that's like Krampus isn't a thing in the U.S., but I bet it still is in Germany.
Oh, yeah, there's
where they're like, if you're bad, pretty much this guy's gonna rip you to shreds. And
what's the thing? We got a guy. Let me turn the book. Find him in it.
Yeah, what'd you do?
Yeah.
Whatever you're doing, this guy's gonna kill you for it. It's the great German book of retribution. What are peoples? Das ist nicht so schlecht.
That being said, at this point, without that, I wonder, there's no retribution for bad acts in the United States. The culture of the U.S. is just sort of Candyland without the scary man whose body is the ground.
For me, it was just a constant threat of military school, I think, was all that.
Oh, right, that's it. That's what you have, this sort of classic Bill and Ted looming. The constant threat of military school. No, that's true. That's what you had. You really didn't have too much. Fear is used a lot in the United States. When I was a kid, it was the fear, like drugs. And no one ever warned me not to smoke pot, because I smoked a lot of it. But they told me not to do drugs. And to this day, I've done acid and coke and pot, but I've never done drugs. As far as, no one's ever offered me drugs.
Would you like some drugs?
Yes. Yeah. I would say no. But I would have to say, I'm not a chicken, you're a turkey. I was taught to say all those things.
I don't remember.
They said, hey man, what are you, chicken? And the guy was like, I'm not a chicken, you're a turkey. And it was like, that worked on drug dealers. You show those drug dealers. I would love to, hey man, you want some drugs?
Yeah, growing up, I was just afraid of eggs. Like, you just said, this is your brain on drugs. What's happening right now? Right. Should I not eat these?
They used to have things in my school that would say, like, this. If you see this going around, these are stamps that, like, have Mickey Mouse on them and they have acid on them.
like anybody was just handing those out, right?
Here's some stamps, man.
Yeah.
Get you messed up.
I gotta mail this thing. Do you have any stamps? I sure do.
I sure do, man.
Let me give it to you for free, because certainly this isn't a business of any kind.
I don't think kids do acid anymore anyway.
It's real hard to find.
It's mostly adults.
It's mostly adults. Hey, you burners out there. Want to build something awesome and set that shit on fire? Welcome. That's pretty much what you do. You build things that I'll never comprehend that are beautiful. Oh, man, that Burning Man community is so weird. But, man, you need 300 chairs in about 2 hours. They get it for you. You just bring over, 300 chairs for a taping once. I brought over a 6-pack of, Corona, and the deal was done.
But now they have Minecraft. They just do it on the computer instead of doing it in real life.
My son plays Minecraft. That's so boring. And they have people that play.
For us, though, for them, they're scintillated.
It's totally. And maybe if I was 8, but my son watches walkthroughs of people playing video games, and it's just, I want to relate and be with it. It's the most boring. Because we're the first generation to want to do things that our kids like also, and we both like The Simpsons. We're cool. Yeah. But at some point you're like, ugh, I'm the boring dad, and you are the kid who likes Minecraft, and I'm the boring guy who's ripping off his skin like I'm in Poltergeist in front of the mirror. It's the most excruciating. And man, I'm bored quick. And watching someone play video games, watch someone play video games. It's like a whole level of hell.
I've gone to conventions like that because some of the jobs that I'll do is I'll work conventions where, I'm the person welcoming people in, or I'll stand at a table and go, here, take this sticker for whatever event or whatever this thing. And I worked this South by 2-3 years ago. It was a video game convention, and it was all that. It was rows and rows of video games, and then in the back was a huge screen where people watched these two guys play video games, and I was like, this is the worst thing in the world.
That's why I'm all for the new esports type things. That's interesting because we can do different things, but I don't understand watching it. Playing it, sure. But people watching Dota 2 and stuff.
And I get it.
Is this video game sports?
Yeah, esport. Yeah. They're
like with the Wii where you got to move around. No, you just sit and then ski with a handheld.
They call it esports. They can call themselves professionals. But they're playing strategy games and things like that. And people are there's actual announcers that will talk over top of what are they doing? Why are they doing it that way?
People that spend all that money money and time on Farmville cultivating a digital farm that will never come to. It takes that takes real time, like a farm would take, except you have stuff in the ground, or cultivate the Second Life relationships. I can't knock people's passions or playing video games, but it has passed me by. There's a window that I have missed, like the window to get into Led Zeppelin has closed. You know, you got to be about 12 to 19. I'm not saying you can't enjoy Led Zeppelin when you're older, but I mean, if you're like 12 to 19 and you were presented to it in the right way, it's the coolest thing ever. But I got into it in my 20s, and someone played me Led Zeppelin, and like, what do you think? And I was like, oh, those wizards? Oh, cheesy. I mean, they're good. I can play, but like, come on, they're not wizards, dude. And shut up! That's so. I mean, like, you can't. But people's music or art and video games and music and movies and any artistic taste is so it defines them often.
Yeah.
And I've done my best to not, because when someone knocks your art that you like, it's knocking you, and it's not. It's not anything personal, so I've learned to just like really like the stuff I like, and I'm okay with it if nobody else likes it.
Are there new technologies that you've found that you've been able to get into, though?
Oh, I mean, it's not the technology. I think that technology has done some really cool stuff in terms of like recording at home and making movies and like, you know, all that stuff. I think it's super cool. It makes it really accessible, and I like especially like getting into home recording and stuff like that. I think it's rad. I mean, I remember as a kid having to go and use toaster effects at some like production house to make little movies, and so I think the technology is there. I think the technology, actually, the graphics for gaming is amazing in some of these games. I mean, I played in television when I was a kid, and you're playing like rectangles shooting squares, and I loved it then. It's just you know what, man? I'm not much of a game player, I realized, and it's like, and that says a lot about me, and probably mostly negative things. But that's one of those things that's like the top of everyone's list of what they love doing in life, which is to play games with other people, to sit down and let's spend 3 hours and let's play Cards Against my mom or whatever. To me, it sounds so horrible, and I usually have fun, but I'm often dragged into those situations, and I think it comes out in playing video games. I feel like I'm locked in.
What do you think? It's a like or dislike of competition necessarily? Because being
Shut up!
In an artistic world, you know what I mean, is especially improv, there's a like, let's distance ourselves from the idea that we're in competition from one another because we're all together.
Yeah, and I like to be very benevolent in art, but I am very competitive. And when you put me in a competitive environment, I was like 18 or 19, and we did I won the first Maestro in this town. And every time I play that game, something kicks in, and I go a little. It's just when you add competition in comedy, especially, I go a little. I get into it, and I think it's maybe a little bit because of that. But I'm like a very I'm a little restless, and so getting locked into a game feels like a long commitment to me. Boy, what a great relationship person I must be.
I don't like playing multiplayer games with people I know. I get super like.
My son is 9, my daughter is 14, and his generation, like, man, when I was a kid, I could program that VCR in ways that my dad could never. And then my son it's like digital natives, right? And so they're so intuitive with Minecraft and Xboxes and all these like complex moves, and he's smart. I mean, those are great skills if you could take those and transfer them over, and as long as you just don't get carpal tunnel or type 2 diabetes from sitting and watching and playing, killing people, whatever. But it's a fine line there. It's just video games are still cathartic, and they're just a little different. We didn't have first person shooters, but man, that changed everything.
Yeah,
we were just talking about Minecraft, and I was like, I know that someday there'll be some sort of revelation about what skills are being implanted in the children to know that, because I remember there were certain video games that we had when we were kids that then helped the kids then be the ones who were programming stuff. And also there's even like, so I'm having a baby, so I'm looking up like baby toys that can actually make you smart early on.
That's a good racket.
And I was looking at, of course it's ridiculous, but there's this one like toy where it was like, if the baby plays with this toy, he'll learn how to code. Like his brain will understand coding. Funny. And I was like, I don't understand any of it. But it was like, maybe that's a thing, and because Minecraft is so huge and like there's so much obsession with it, I really wonder if the skills inherent in that game will then lend itself to building the newer technologies that those kids, when they're adults, will have.
Yeah, it's funny you say that because that really made me think. I want to hope it's almost the opposite, because I think that I know in a way that like I hope that they also have, like, it seems like with Minecraft, if you're okay, it's almost like it's a game of solitude and foraging and going off in the wilderness alone.